Hello and welcome back to another video. My name is Amoshala Victoria Wolabi, and for those of you who are seeing me for the first time, virtual high five to you and welcome to this channel. I am a teacher is what I would say I am, and I teach life principles from a biblical perspective so that we can all grow and become who God has called us to be. If you like content like this, please don't forget to subscribe to the channel and click on that notification icon so that you get notified each time we upload a new video. On today's video though, we're going to be discussing, it's a continuation of our conversation from the last video. And the last video was answering the question, who am I? If you haven't seen it, just make sure you look down anywhere on this video or in the description box. It will be linked for you down below. On this video, I'm going to be talking about the original intent for our human existence. Why do we live on planet Earth? Why are we here? What are we doing here? Because in Psalms 82 verse 5 to 7, I found something really scary, something that blew my mind when I saw it. And it says, the gods, small g, know nothing. They understand nothing. They walk about in darkness and all the foundations of the earth are shaken. I said, you are gods. You are sons of the Most High, but you will die like mere mortals. You will fall like every other ruler. I don't know about you, but this particular verse in Psalms 82, actually, it scared me a little bit. What was the psalmist trying to tell us here? It says, you are gods, small g. You gods know nothing. You understand nothing. You walk about in darkness and all the foundations of the earth are shaking because you are walking around in darkness. I said, you are gods. You are all sons of the Most High, but you will die like mere mortals. You will fall like every other ruler. This is what the psalmist is telling us. What does this mean? In the last video, I talked about how we were created as a representation of God in the earth. Therefore, we're created according to his pattern, right? We're created in his image, right? So if we're created in the image of God now, the psalmist is telling us here that when we do not understand who we are or the reason for our existence, the foundations of the earth are shaking. Things go out of course. That is why the world is so dark, because a lot of us do not understand the reason why we're here. A lot of us do not understand the very essence of our existence. A lot of us walk around in utter darkness without us taking the time to understand why we're here. That is why there is war, there is strife, there is chaos, because we don't understand the concept of our dominion. And when we do not understand who we are, we risk living an ordinary life with no impact whatsoever. A lot of us do not understand who we are or why we're here, that we try to have dominion over men when that was never the intent to start with, right? Now let's dig into this concept a little bit further. John 4:24 says God is a spirit. We established that in the last video, right? And that is why God decided to create a representation of himself, because the earth is a physical plane. It's a physical realm, right? We live in a physical world. And because God is a spirit, God decided I will make a representation of myself and then house them in a body that is created from the elements of this environment, right? That is why you are the way you are. So you are a spirit first, because remember, you were made in the image and according to the likeness of God. God is a spirit. Therefore, you are a spirit. And that is why John 4:24 tells us that God is spirit and his worshippers must worship him in spirit and in truth, because God is a spirit. Therefore, this verse tells us God is a spirit. Then we are created in his image and likeness. That makes us spirit beings as well. We are spirits living in a body, having a human experience, right? God built us as spirits, and then he formed the body according to his likeness. He formed and then he breathed, is what the Bible tells us. He breathed his DNA himself into our bodies. Look at it this way. Let me give you this analogy, right? Let's say, for example, you want to build a house, right? You want to live somewhere. You go to this, you go to this beautiful location. You love it. It's beautiful. There's palm trees everywhere. The grass is green and lush. The beach is nearby. You love this place. You want to build there. You don't start living on the land in the open space. No, you build a house first and then you move into the house, right? You build the house and then you move into the house, right? Now look at it this way. The land, the vast, beautiful, lush, green land is the spirit. The house is the body. The spirit moves and lives in the body, okay? Because you move into the house does not make you the house. I'm going somewhere. Stay with me, okay? Stay with me. I'm going somewhere. Does not move into the house. That is why when I see people who spend time on, oh, I don't look good. Speaking of looking good, by the way, I think my hair is pretty fly today. Okay, right? That is why a lot of people that decide not to do what they are supposed to be doing because, oh, I don't look good enough. Oh, I'm too short. Oh, I'm too tall. Oh, I don't look at how I look. Oh, I've got acne. Look, I'm not picking on anybody. What I've just said is the same stories I used to tell myself yesteryears, okay? Because I was so focused on the external. In other words, I was so focused on the way my house looked as opposed to who I was, which is the spirit. Right? God gives us houses for his purposes. If you would accomplish your purpose, being a Caucasian, God would have made you that way. If you were going to accomplish your purpose best, being tall, God would have made you tall. If you are going to accomplish your purposes best, being short, God would have made you short. Right? Why did Queen Esther in the Bible? God tells us her attributes. She was beautiful. Why? Because according to her purpose, beauty was a factor. Right? But then the story of Deborah, God does not give us details about her physical appearance because it didn't matter. Deborah was a judge. She had a different assignment to Esther in the Bible. You see what I mean? It was different. So no one is better than the other because Deborah as a judge also saved Israel. Esther as a beautiful queen also saved Israel. You see, we all have different assignments, but none is better than the other, right? That is why we don't focus on the house. That's why Jesus said this temple will be brought down and built back up in 3 days. Look at what they did to Jesus. They destroyed the body. But because he was not his body, he rose up again and repaired that body. Oh my God. That is why I want you to know today that the original intent for your existence is for you to accomplish the purposes of God, regardless of what you look like today. I remember in high school, I got teased a lot because I was quite tall in high school, right? And I was so skinny. I was telling my daughter the other day, like I looked at that eye with a dot on top of it, and that dot was my head. Right? And the dot was my head, right? So I was so skinny. People made fun of me, some called me ugly. Okay. They haven't sent me today. Okay, let's get serious now, right? They called me all sorts of things, right? Because they did not understand who I was. I didn't know it then myself, if I'm being honest. So I used to let those things get to me. I'll tell you a quick story. One time when I was about 16 years old, I went for an audition. It was to be a presenter on radio. And I've always wanted to be in the media. I've always wanted to be a radio host. So I got excited, like I was very happy. I got excited and I went for this audition. When I got to the audition, there was a lot of people auditioning, right? And the queue was backed up. It was so long. I joined the queue. I was still excited. I waited my turn. 9 a.m., 10 a.m., 11, 12, 1, 2, 3, 4. I was still in the queue waiting. And then I started getting to the front of the line just a little bit. And then I overheard these people talking about how they were presenters and how they were so experienced and this job was going to be like the best job ever and things like that. And they were going on and on and on and on about it. And I heard them. I heard what they were saying. And I thought to myself, wait, you don't have the looks for this job you're auditioning for. It's crazy. These people have way more experience than you. Crazy. I started to talk myself out of that opportunity. So you know what I did? I turned around. I didn't mind that I'd been there hours. No. I turned around, walked out of the place, got in the bus, and went home. Yeah, that's what I did. I never auditioned, even though I had waited for hours in the line to audition. I knew that was what I really wanted to do. So at this point, I'm asking you, how many times have you betrayed yourself like that? Because that's what I did. I betrayed myself. I betrayed my desires because I overheard what other people were saying externally that had nothing to do with me. And I went home, never auditioned. And this story has haunted me all my life. All my life, because I just keep thinking, what if I did not leave? What if? Maybe I would have gotten the role, maybe not. What if? So do not focus on the body. No, you are not the body. The body can be improved. The body can be rebuilt. You are not your body. You are not your body. Because you move into the house doesn't make you the house. The house becomes your house, but you are the person that inhabits the house. That inhabits the house. Oh God, this English language. Okay, that inhabits the house, right? You are the person that inhabits the house. In the same way your spirit lives in your body, you are the spirit that lives in the body. The spirit doesn't have an end. It belongs to God. Your spirit is immortal. Your spirit cannot die. It belongs to God because God does not die. That's why the Bible tells us that the body, your body returns to the earth and the spirit returns to God who gave it. It belongs to God. Each individual spirit is a droplet of God's DNA. And this is great because this gives you a huge advantage. It gives us access to the duality of realms, right? If your spirit is made as a representation in the pattern of who God is, it means you have an advantage. It means your spirit can access both realms, the spiritual realm and the physical realm. Your spirit can access the metaphysical and the physical. You have an advantage. A lot of us don't know this though. We are so consumed with the physical world that we don't, some people don't believe the spiritual world even exists in the first place. Some people believe it, but are doing it wrong, accessing wrong spirits, right? You have an advantage. The moment you understand the original intent for your existence, how you were made, your genetic makeup, who you are, then you reach a new awareness that gives you an advantage over somebody that doesn't. This is what makes your body, receive certain impulses that we cannot explain sometimes, right? The problem is we have so intellectualized our lives to the detriment of the spiritual. We only believe things that we can see. Meanwhile, the world that we cannot see is even more real and influences the physical world that we live in. Don't believe me? I'll tell you another story. A couple of years back, I had a dream. And in the dream, I was with a friend of ours in a car. He was driving and I was sitting next to him in the dream. And we drive for a little bit and I said to him, I bought this car. And immediately, as I said, I just bought this car. It's mine. Immediately, he turns off the car, takes out the keys and gives it to me. And where he parks the car, my husband is standing outside the car in the dream. This guy, this mutual friend of ours, our family friend of ours, comes out of the car and says, I'm going to say hi to your husband, and walks around the car to where my husband is standing outside the car and starts talking to my husband. And after that scene, in the next scene, I see there's an accident. No, I'm jumping ahead. There is no accident in the dream. I see that I'm out of the car and there's a mob of people and I'm shouting, someone is trying to steal my bag. Someone is trying to steal my bag. Someone is trying to steal my bag, right? So I'm shouting, someone is trying to steal my bag. Someone is trying to steal my bag. And The people are coming, the mob of people are coming to try to get the thieves. And I'm like, wait, the police will soon be here. Let's wait for the police to get here. And I wake up. Didn't think nothing of the dream. I told my husband, like, I had this dream, but I don't know what it means. Didn't think nothing of it. I write it down. I implore you, please always write down your dreams. Exactly a year after I had that dream, I was we're looking for a car to buy because we wanted a small car, just for everyday running around, taking the kids to school and back and things like that. A car that was, fuel efficient and everything. Now, this family friend of ours I told you I saw in the dream, we had not seen him for years. All of a sudden, my husband runs into him one day and he's like, oh, where are you going? What's going on? Oh, I'm just, on the market looking for a car. He's like, oh, I have this car that, I don't use it much. It just isn't there. I could sell it to you if you want for like a good price. My husband's like, oh yeah, like, why not? So he sells the car to us. Now we get the car. Barely 3 weeks of us getting the car. I'm driving my children to school. I drop off my girls first. My son was still in preschool at the time, so I drop off my son at preschool. No, so I drop off my daughters first, and I'm going to drop off my son at preschool. As I'm driving, I get to a circle, right? And at the circle, if you are coming this way and this way, you wait, right? For the people who are coming this way and this way to go. So I'm on my right of way, I'm going, and this woman comes from this way and she doesn't stop, and she just goes, boom, runs into me, and my car flips. Well, not flips, but skids over to the other side of the road and blocks the oncoming traffic on this way. And the car that I block here, the person comes down to say, are you okay? Is everything okay? And that guy is a pastor from the church we used to attend when we first moved here. And I looked at him, I'm like, what? He says, are you okay? I'm like, yeah. Obviously, I'm still a bit in shock. My son is sitting at the back of the car. So she hit the passenger side of the car, right? And that makes the car skid over, the force of it. But my son is okay, thank God. My son is okay. So we get home. I didn't think nothing of the dream, did not remember the dream, nothing. And we're going through insurance and all of those things. And yeah, and then I remember all of a sudden, I'm like, wait, I'm going through my dream journal one day. And I see this dream I'd written a year ago. God showed me in the dream, I was in the car with that family friend that we bought the car from, right? I was in the car with him. I said to him in the dream, this car is mine. He gives me the keys and he goes to say hi to my husband. My husband was actually the one who facilitated the transaction. My husband was the one who did all the buying and everything and brought the car home and gave it to me, obviously, right? My husband is in the dream. Now, the scene where there's a mob of people was the accident, because as soon as the accident happened, there was a mob of people that gathered, right? And I'm saying to them in the dream, this thief is trying to steal my bag. What is in your bag? Valuables, right? Valuables is things that are valuable to you. That's what's in your bag, right? So definitely the enemy tried to steal, because that car was a write-off, believe you me. And we came out fine, but that car was a write-off. Insurance had to actually pay out, the money for the car because they couldn't fix it. They said, this car is a write-off, we can't fix it, right? So what am I trying to say in essence? The spiritual world is way, way more real than the physical. And when God gives you the gifts, when he trusts you, because the Bible tells us that God confides in those that trust him. So if you have a gift where God confides in you to show you things before they happen, please take it seriously. Take it seriously. At the time, I didn't even know that I had that gift to that extent until this happened. And I was like, boom, it was a big wake-up call for me. I was like, okay, God, I get it. You have my full attention, okay? So yeah, so this tells us that the whole intent for the human existence is that you are a spirit on assignment in a physical plane, right? And James 2:26 tells us that as the body without the spirit is dead, so is faith without deeds. So is faith without works is also dead, right? So it tells us here that once the spirit leaves the body, it doesn't matter how beautiful that body is, it's dead. In the analogy I gave you before, if you build a beautiful mansion, big mansion, The moment your spirit walks out of that place, or the moment you get out of that place, it doesn't matter how beautiful it is. It just becomes, the house just becomes full of echoes. Whoa, whoa, whoa. You know, it just echoes. There's no life in it. There's no life in it. And before you know it, it becomes musty, dusty, and crusty, you know, because you're not there. You are the one that makes the house come alive. The same way, your spirit, who you are, is what makes you come alive. That is the original intent for our physical existence, for our human existence. God put us here for a reason, to accomplish a specific purpose for Him. Life is spiritual. All we see is not all that there is. Life is spiritual. Life is spiritual. All we see is not all that there is. Now, let me give you another example. So imagine that the ocean, the vastness of the ocean is God, right? And you take a cup and put the ocean water in a cup, right? That cup is a droplet of God's DNA, and that's you. That's you, right? That is you. So we see that in the above example that I just gave in the analogy, our spirits are contained in a vessel called our body. God expresses Himself in individual forms or droplets, which is our uniqueness. Each one of us, brown, white, black, gray, you know, every shade in between, is a droplet of God's expression in human form. God reduces His power to small particles of individual expressions called humans. God reduces His power to small particles of individual expressions called humans. It is a massive reduction of power, yet the power is full in that droplet. You are a massive reduction of God's power, yet your power is so great. Imagine what we've been able to create. That is why an animal can never sew this jacket that I have on. That is why an animal cannot build a plane. That is why an animal did not discover electricity. But even at that, look at what humans have been able to invent and create over the course of humanity. But even at that, we are all still a droplet of God's DNA, right? Because God is immortal, creative, and expressive. Right? So what God does is He reduces His power appropriately to fit the level of the vessel. In the analogy I gave you, let's say you build a house and you build a small house. Let's say you build a small house. There are specific things that will not be able to fit in that house. I remember when I lived in a one-bedroom, there are some types of furniture that I would have loved to have, but I couldn't because why? I didn't have the space for it. Right? The same way too, there are some things that you may crave now, but you don't have the capacity for. What do? Build capacity. Build capacity. So the original intent for our very existence is that God has reduced Himself and put Himself in vessels, which is us, so that we can accomplish His divine purpose. There is something on this earth that needs to be done that requires you to be here and will not be done until you get up and do it. Yeah. So what are you waiting for? You know who you are now. You know the original intent for your existence. Don't let anybody reduce you to names and labels. You're way more than that. You're way more than that. You are created by the God who made the sun, the moon, the stars, the trees, the seas. You are important to God. Therefore, you should be important to yourself. The original intent why you were here is to accomplish God's purposes on the earth. Thank you so much for listening to this video. I do appreciate that you take time to listen. Please do not forget to subscribe, turn on the notification icon. It means a lot to the channel. It's encouraging when we see your subscriptions coming through. Thank you so much for listening to this episode, and until the next one, keep on shining.